victory. And listen, you know what you're listening to. You kicking off the year off right? With me, Telisa Franklin, on the Telisa Franklin Show right here on FM 104, AM 1240, WAB in the Trend. You know what we're doing over here, right? We're trending the music, the culture, and the conversations. And listen, the conversation of this year is who will be our next mayor? Yes, mayor of the city of Memphis. And let me tell you, this is a big job. It is going to take some big shoes to fill this job, to continue to move Memphis forward. We deserve this, Memphis. And listen, all week long right here, because you know what we're doing over here. We're trending music, culture, and conversation. The conversation for the culture is who will be our next mayor. Listen, I have a young man in the studio with me this morning. We all love him. We all adore his family name. And he and his family has been a staple in our city. But one thing I know about Paul Young, I'm going to tell you all about him, right? He's going to talk too. I think I'm going to let him talk a little bit. Paul is such a young gentleman with an old soul. So he has a lot of wisdom, right? And so let me go ahead and just dive in it because Paul wants to be the mayor of the city of Memphis. So Paul Young.
Yes.
Man, why you want to be the city mayor? What's up?
It's about purpose for me. My whole life is all about purpose. And I had this inspirational moment when I had just graduated from college at the University of Tennessee. I had this degree in electrical engineering, had moved back to Memphis, and I couldn't find the job that I wanted. And my mom was preaching a sermon over at the Healing Center. Shout out to Pastor Diane Young and the late Bishop William Young. She was preaching this sermon, and in her sermon she said, she was talking about the purpose-driven life. And I don't know if you remember when that book was the craze. And what she said was that God's purpose for your life will never be about you. God's purpose for your life will always be about somebody else. And so I took that and I said, all right, I have this degree, but I'm not necessarily working in the field that I want to be in. So what do I want to do? And I decided at that moment that I wanted to work to rebuild neighborhoods and communities in our city. And so I decided to enroll in city and regional planning at the University of Memphis. So I got a degree in community building. I've been working in neighborhoods and communities for the last 20 years. And I really feel like I've been preparing for this job my whole life. And so it's time for me to step to the plate. It's time for the future of Memphis to step into the shoes. And I represent that future. And I'm ready for the job.
Paul, you know, on this journey, I've heard many people say, he's just so young. He's just so young. But, you know, when you brought up, shout out to Pastor Diane Young, your amazing father, Bishop Young. And, you know, I always tell this when I go out and talk to people, I say, listen, Pastor Young said get you a checkup from your nigga, right? And so I know for a fact your mind got to be right because your parents instilled that in you.
Definitely.
But when I hear people say, well, Paul is such a young guy, you know, he may have a little bit more years, maybe give him a little bit more years, and he'll really understand this. How do you handle when that's the topic of you're a young guy and not your qualifications?
I would say talk to me. Let's have a discussion, because I say line up all of the candidates and talk to us directly and see who has the clearest vision for the future, who has a track record of results, meaning that in your current or previous jobs, what have you done that demonstrates to us, the public, that you're going to be able to execute on anything that you're saying. And if you can't demonstrate those results, you shouldn't be our mayor. And regardless of my age, I'm 43, so I'm not that young. I may look a little bit younger, but I've been doing this for 20 years. And so I have a track record of results. And I put my credentials, my credibility up against anybody. And that's, you know, I'm friends with all of the folks that are looking to run, but we're just applying for the same job. And I'm going to go at it with a tenacity that they probably hadn't seen from me, because they hadn't seen that side of Paul. They know me as the respectful, smart person that has led housing, that's now leading downtown development. And, you know, I've worked on affordable housing in our community. I'm ready to tackle all of the problems, because Memphis has been a city with promise. Like, we're almost there for so long. For so long, we always say, Memphis, we almost, all we need is, all we need, it's time for us to actually realize that promise. And in order to do that, we need a leader who represents the future of this community, somebody who has learned from the elders. I've been poured into from folks like my parents and Archie Willis and all of the folks that are a little bit older than me, but I'm also still connected to the folks that are in their 20s and 30s. And so represent that middle child that's able to put, and I am actually a middle child too, that middle child that actually can push our city forward.